Hi, and welcome to this third special Transit Unplugged episode from our most recent conference, ThinkTransit. This keynote is all about looking ahead. We've been in the pandemic. We've all taken it on the chin. Now, how are we going to get up and move forward? In this special group keynote, Jeff Gray, Phil Verster, Alex Wiggins, and Aaron Pinkerton talk about how they are taking and moving things forward and how we as a transit industry can pick up, look at what we've accomplished, and move towards the future. I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, so to set the stage here, I think it's really important to look at the impact that COVID-19 has had on the transit industry. Many of you have experienced substantial reductions in ridership, upwards of 90% in some cases. And to date, some of you are still down, right? With commuter transportation being affected the most in most cities. What has happened as a result of this is routes have been reduced, capacity has been limited on vehicles, masks are required and even enforced now in some cases, and cleaning has ramped up as well to respond. Thankfully, the government has responded quite positively in the US and Canada with funding to help you manage through these trying times, and for some agencies, invest in areas of need as well. Specifically in the US, the three COVID recovery acts of $25 billion, $14 billion, and most recently $30.5 billion have come into play, as well as in Canada. There's been $14.9 billion over 8 years by Trudeau. So with all of that said, really, I think what's really remarkable to me and many of us is just seeing how resilient this transit industry is, how resilient the transit agencies are, how resilient the people you are that run the agencies, and just how essential public transportation is to all of our cities. As we've had the opportunity to speak with many of you throughout the last year, it's really inspiring to hear your plans to come out of this global pandemic with a future looking much brighter and with a common focus, the rider. So looking back on day one's keynote, Teresa and Peter referred to the top 3 transit agency performance indicators. And just to reiterate, APTA's recent survey of its 1,200 members asked the question of what are the top 3 performance indicators you see for success? And those came in as follows, with number 1 coming in as customer satisfaction. Really, the consensus is that to get people back on the bus, we need to increase customer satisfaction, the customer experience, and naturally then ridership will increase as a result. Number 2, of course, is ridership. And last of all is access to mobility options. So not just the traditional train and bus options, but other options that really meet the lifestyle and the needs of your customers, your riders. So really, it's all about the rider. We all know that it's how to get them back on transit, to trust in transit again, to rebuild transit, to serve your customers better than ever before. So we've learned from opportunities to speak with many leaders, such as like Phil and Alex and Aaron on our panel today. And there are some common themes around how to improve customer experience and get transit back on track. Paul refers to it as the grand strategy, right? And it involves 3 main elements. Number 1 is a reboot. This involves looking at demand and changing really how you serve your customers. High tech, low touch is the second, how you use technology to respond to the needs of your riders in this new normal. And last of all, green and clean. Providers providing a system that riders know is clean for them, is safe for them, and also reminding them that it's green, right? With a way that will remind riders and bring them back to transit and remind them of why they rode transit in the first place. So how is this done? What are the elements to that grand strategy? So it really starts with reanalyzing demand up here in the top left corner. So more than ever before, customers are asking for convenient, safe, clean service that meets their needs again. now and post-COVID will mean reassessing and analyzing demand and determining what riders are looking for and what meets the needs of that new normal. Based on this demand, it will mean likely calibrating service offerings to meet this new demand. Many of you are going through this and have been going through this already, so this is no news. But it will continue as we continue to understand all the changes that are in play. Lauren Skyver has been heard saying before, we got to stop selling what people aren't buying, which I think is really telling. And she also said yesterday in her keynote that the transits are smart and innovative. Everyone within the transit agency and the transit world itself are smart and innovative. And more than ever before, we're seeing transit agencies really flex those innovative muscles to respond to the new demands that they have from their customers. Recalibration, also means considering where things like microtransit fits in, whether this means servicing low density areas or, where it doesn't make sense to run a fixed route bus anymore, or first mile, last mile purposes, or just individualized service, many different ways to use microtransit. And it also means embracing mobility as a service or MaaS. Whatever flavor of MaaS each agency decides to be a part of, it's really just to deliver that customer experience. Riders are demanding one central platform to access various convenient ways to travel. And regardless of what flavor of MaaS, we all know mass transit is that backbone. So some common elements we're seeing our customers, you pursuing out there in the industry, common payment and MaaS solutions to combine mobility options, contactless payment options. Riders don't want to be touching surfaces anymore. They don't want to exchange cash. So that's a need there. The need for data to show things like real-time occupancy. So riders can get on vehicles that aren't as crowded and travel or plan their travel that way. And even analytics. Aaron will speak to here in a little bit about analytics and understanding how you can more dynamically and flexibly respond to change quickly, as that's really a need today. And last of all, we're seeing the need to be green and clean, right? Another way to bring people back to transit, things like, obviously, today we're dealing with masks and social distancing. Hopefully that's more of a short-term solution. But longer term, there's cleaning, of course, air and surface ventilation, things of that nature that brings people back and makes them feel safe and understands that transit is responding. And again, as I mentioned, green as well. So zero emission buses. Ridership will pick back up and people will come back to transit as they remember green is one of the main reasons why they choose to ride transit as well. Okay, so I'm going to just finish this off with something that our Steve Sawyer quoted here before, and I think it really recaps well what we're trying to get across. And that's one of the greatest lessons of 2020 is that by using technology more effectively, transit agencies can improve rider experience and in turn inspire them to get back on the bus. So I think really well put by Steve. And with that, I want to jump right into the panel with our speakers. So before I do that, let's introduce everyone. Okay, so first on the list here is Phil Verster. With the largest transit capital program in North America, Phil has incredible plans for Metrolinx. As president and CEO, Phil is building $5.5 billion in transit infrastructure year over year. And investment like this is really important in a place like Toronto, where there are over 100,000 new arrivals to the Greater Toronto Area every year. Phil and his transit team are fixated on safety culture, their employees, and the dimensions of customer satisfaction. And Phil has experience managing train operations, infrastructure builds, and management for passenger rail systems in England, Scotland, and Ireland before he joined Metrolinx in 2017. Next up is Erin Pinkerton. Erin's passion for transit is all in the family. Erin followed her father's footsteps, where her father started the paratransit service in Victoria, BC in the early 80s. Erin actually began her career moving people on boats at BC ferries the public ferry agency connecting the islands of coastal BC. And now Aaron leads BC Transit, a provincial crown agency serving the entire province of BC, of course, outside of Metro Vancouver. It's a large, diverse geographical province, BC, and is almost 40% larger than the state of Texas, with 27,000 kilometers of coastline. So quite expansive. BC Transit serves a population of 1.8 million people in over 130 communities, with 80 plus systems and 1,100 buses. And last of all, Alex Wiggins. Alex is CEO of New Orleans Regional Transit Authority and is a veteran of the United States Army, Air Force Reserve, and the Seattle Police Department. Prior to taking the helm at NORTA, Alex served as chief of LA Metro's System Security and Law Enforcement Division. Alex's vision for the agency is to build a transportation network focused on equitable service delivery, regional connectivity, and a forward-thinking emphasis on the customer experience. Just wanted to share one fun fact about the RTA I thought was really interesting. The oldest component of the RTA is the St. Charles streetcar line, which actually began in 1835 and remains the oldest continuously operating street railway in the world. So very cool fact there. Okay, so with that, I want to kick it off with Phil Verster first. Phil, welcome, and really, Phil, to kick this off from your side, I would love to hear your perspective around resiliency and how do we get transit back on track.
Thank you very much, Jeff. COVID has been an awful year for all of us. But we took decisions right up front to keep our construction going, and we did so in Ontario. And we've maintained our rate of investment and our rate of construction and the rate of production, really. And we've done our forward views on the economic impact of transit and whether our investment strategy was still on track. We see a world where there are more frequent services, more choice for riders, less single long trains in for a peak morning commute, peak evening commute, and more multiple journey purposes as people travel around the region. The really exciting thing is that the picture, the 4 photographs you see there, 3 of them are about 7 big infrastructure jobs we completed in the last 4 months or so, about $1 billion's worth of new stations, new infrastructure that we've put in place. And in as little as 3 weeks' time, we will be closing on the commercial contracts for 2 tunnels that as part of our 4-year 4 subway program. We've got about $70 billion worth of approved projects that we're executing over the next 10 years. It's just ferocious, yeah, and we're super excited, and we are just working really hard at this. And if we click on to the next slide, the thing that we're focusing on as well is how do we, and we call it ready to ride. How do we get our customers back? We've got a regional transit system of railways and buses, and what do we do? And this is where that high-tech, low-touch focus come in. Our marketing team have put together marketing campaigns which are very focused, very personalized, very high-tech, very modern, very much focused on what are the type of journey purposes, because I think that's going to be very different in a post-COVID world. And how do we get people to travel? And we've progressed there. In the bottom middle photo, you see our contactless payment system, where we now rolling out a mobile phone, mobile application where you can just touch and go. And this whole focus on personalized offers, end-to-end journeys, what is really valuable. We had a campaign before that we called Find Your Go Time. Go meaning Go is our big brand. Government of Ontario is our big transit brand. But finding that special opportunity for people to have more of their personal time back, because they don't have to sit in an awful car. They can sit in a fantastic GO train, for example. So that's the focus there. And then perhaps just the last slide as the last few thoughts for the team. I come from a school of people that fixate and obsess about safety. And we've taken our safety statistics, and I would say, Jeff, on the 1, 2, and 3 priorities you listed in your presentation, I would have nudged safety onto that list if I had a chance. But our fixation about making our operations safe, keeping our customers safe, keeping ourselves safe, keeping our construction partners safe, and permeates our culture. And what was so interesting is the impact it had. The link between safety and health, it's a short step between the two. And we've rolled out so many campaigns. And I know everyone's doing the cleaning and stuff. We're also doing health kiosks, which you can see one of the photos on that page as well, where any of our customers can get a temperature check. We advise them on how germs are spread or not spread with masking. Lots of little demonstrations, and we do that about a quarter of our stations. We do that in order to just encourage people to be safe. We are, as you can sense, super optimistic about the future. The future is going to be different, for sure. It's going to be different. But the economic impact that transit has on a city, region, and a province as our own is phenomenal. And that's what we're building for. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Phil. Great insights there. As a follow-up to what you shared there, can you share with us, what are the 2 or 3 most significant impressions that you think COVID will leave on your Metrolinx team?
Yeah, you know what? We've always been very employee-oriented, and our employee engagement scores were always in that top quartile, a respectable top 70% type engagement score. COVID has got us to be so much more of a caring, empathetic, authentic, engaged organization. Our last 3 engagement scores were all in the 80s. And I think, personally, and I can speak for my team as well, we've come away from COVID having significantly more empathy for people and for community around us. COVID has really been, it's been an eye-opener in that sense. And that's a big one. It changes the shape and the culture of an organization.
Absolutely.
But also say we have to be very innovative during this period, because our partners in our construction portfolio, different risk profiles, have different perceptions of how risks will affect their construction activities. So we had to be innovative with changing our construction methodologies, our contract forms. We still taxpayers' money is really important money, so you still have to be very transparent in how you deal with claims and the like. But we are more and more taking risk back as an organization, sharing risk, not passing it all off to the contractor, much more looking for joint collaborative solutions. So COVID has definitely left a mark. Strong impressions, but we're coming out of it stronger, and we're looking forward to the future.
I love that, and the fact that the empathy is just building on that rider experience going forward, right?
Absolutely.
Rider experience.
Absolutely.
That's great to hear. Thanks for that, Phil. We'll be taking questions for all of the panelists at the end, but we'll move on to Alex at this point. Thanks very much, Phil. Okay, to introduce Alex here. Alex, do you mind just telling us a little more about your vision for Norda and achieving equity in transit operations?
Jeff, thank you. Yes, absolutely. And and before I get started, I really just want to say I'm just really happy to be on the panel. With Phil and with Aaron, they operate some wonderful systems in beautiful regions of the world. Ontario and BC are just absolutely God's country. So happy to be here. Our vision at the RTA is really to remove all barriers to success for our employees to ensure that we deliver equitable transit options and mobility options to everyone in the city. It's no secret that, we have work to do in the South, and in particular in urban areas like New Orleans. I was born and raised here. I spent most of my youth here, and I manage a system that my parents couldn't ride freely. I manage a ferry operation that at one point was the embarkation point for slaves. And so it's something that I take very, very personal here at the RTA, and my executive team has really joined me in that effort. So as we begin to recover from COVID, we have to be mindful of the impact of COVID on communities of color, and in particular, how we go about restoring service. So what do we know about COVID? We know that, people of color were disproportionately impacted, illness and mortality, in many cases laid off because, organizations had to reduce staffing. And in some cases, agencies, and myself, my own agency included, because we had to reduce service as a result of COVID, we may have unintentionally limited mobility for those very essential workers who actually had to keep our community going. So we know that, essential workers are, people of color are well represented, both as essential workers and as transit employees. And so, again, we just have to be mindful. And then you look at the current challenge we have is the efficacy of the vaccine, the willingness of communities to take the vaccine. Some communities may not have access, others may have historical objections to the vaccine. So as we begin to recover, we certainly have to be mindful of those communities of color. So I want to be real specific about the experience in New Orleans. At the onset of COVID, like my colleagues across the country, our ridership immediately dropped by about 90%. Our fare revenue, sales tax revenue dropped, immediately by about 70%. And then, of course, we had to reduce service by 50% across all modes. And currently, we're operating about 80% of our service levels. And so my question for, again, the industry and my own agency is, did we unintentionally adversely impact the communities that actually needed us the most during this critical time? And so we really are here at the RTA building a culture that is going to examine equity across all areas. Every decision that we make, service, hiring, who we do business with, how we recruit and retain employees, we really want equity to be a lens. And it's really patterned after a program that I learned about when I worked in Seattle. Was essentially a race and social justice initiative, where there was a very focused effort on removing barriers and ensuring equity. And so that's what we're going to be doing as we look to restore service. How do we restore service in a way that meets the need of folks that need us the most? How do we better connect our riders to educational and job opportunities? How do we increase frequency in those areas where, historically, we may not have provided the level of service that was absolutely needed? So as we look through a lens of equity at how we operate at the RTA, we're looking to understand the income of specific neighborhoods, the neighborhoods that individuals live in, obviously ethnicity, income, whether or not this community is, comprised of more car owning homes or less, and then designing a transit system and redesigning our bus network in particular to ensure that we can offer someone the same level of mobility as they would if they had a car. And again, access to education, access to employment being paramount there. And so I just kind of want to sum up, there are a lot of conversations about equity. And I want to really make it very, very simple. So really how we define it is simply the condition that would be achieved if one's racial identity no longer predicted in a statistical sense how they're going to fare in life. And so very straightforward, approach. And so that's what we're going to be doing here as we recover from COVID. We have a long journey ahead of us. As we know, it's been a very, very, very tough year. And as we recover, we want to be mindful of the needs of our rider.
Great. Thanks for that, Alex. I mean, it's really great to hear that yourself and Norda are taking this as an opportunity, right, to come out the other side of this with a much brighter future and better than ever before, reanalyzing how you provide service. So really, really key insights there, and thanks for sharing that. Can you share any examples maybe of where you've seen achieving equity has been really successful in other parts of the world? Anything that you're seeing as an example that you're trying to take pieces from and learn from?
Yeah, absolutely. I was really fortunate to begin my transit career in the Northwest. And I had a chance to work for two incredible organizations. One is Sound Transit, and the other is the Seattle Department of Transportation. And I really want to credit, a good friend of mine, former mayor, Greg Nichols, who actually initiated this race and social justice initiative across all city departments and agencies, and actually made a concerted effort to, one, acknowledge barriers that were historical, and then remove those barriers. Not to give anyone an unfair advantage, but just simply level the playing field, remove the barriers, make sure that everyone has an equal opportunity at success. And so I've had the chance to, I was in the military and did some work for the State Department. So I've really worked and lived around the world. And I would love to replicate the environment that's in the Northwest. I'd love to replicate that in New Orleans and make it possible for, again, every customer, every rider, every employee, every business owner to understand that when they interact with the RTA, it's a level playing field.
Great. Thanks so much, Alex. Really strong message there. And thanks for your time today. We're going to, again, save questions till the end here, but I know some are coming in. So thank you very much. And we're going to switch gears to Aaron at this point. Great. Good morning, Aaron, I guess. Morning, right? Good morning, 8:30.
Morning for me.
So Aaron, thanks very much for joining us here. Our GM, Teresa Domingo, mentioned on day one, Aaron, how important it is for us to measure here and for you as our customers to measure as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you measure and how you use data in your day-to-day to lead your agency?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. And thanks for stepping in, because I know it's always a little overwhelming to be tapped and try to replace Paul Comfort's energy and charisma. So you're doing great, Jeff.
Thank you.
Before I start talking, I do want to start by acknowledging that I am speaking today from beautiful Victoria, British Columbia, which is on the Lekwungen traditional territory and homeland of the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. And we do traditional acknowledgements here in British Columbia. And I think, Alex, what you just talked about in terms of all of the social equity and ensuring that we're reaching those communities, that's a big part of British Columbia as well, is acknowledging the lands that we do operate and work on. Data. Yay. I couldn't be more thankful that we, previous to COVID, had spent a large journey really making sure that we actually were getting some data. So I know that other agencies are in different cycles of where they go with their data. For us, that was a big thing. We had just finished all the APCs. We had just put Next Ride out there. We're using data to tell our customers where to go. So I don't think this should be a surprise to anyone, but again, if there's something that we're doing that you hadn't thought about doing, then hey, it's a success. And if you're doing it, then good. Then I know that we're all doing the right things. For us right now, we're really, this is the way I would describe it. We know that the long term is bright, and yet we've got this cloud of the short term in front of us. So what we're trying to do is not react too much, but also use data to make sure that long term we're successful and that we can meet our customers' needs in the short term. And what I mean by that is like just this hyper-focused look at all of what's happening with our ridership and demand. So we're using daily ridership dashboards to look at where are people traveling, time of day, what type of service are they taking? We know peak commuter trips are down, but our midday travel is going up. Our weekend travel is changing. So what are people's adjustments being done in order to travel on transit? Mode share is really, really important for me, and I'll talk about that in a bit later on, because is people not traveling? Is the size of the travel demand bubble going down, or are people shifting their actual modes? We've seen in beautiful British Columbia that people are walking and biking more. So if we lose transit ridership to an active transportation, which I wouldn't consider to be competition, then are we going to go after chasing people to say, stop, how dare you walk, get back on our bus, versus losing people to automobiles, which takes away from what we're trying to do in terms of building our communities. The one thing that we've also been using is a ton of customer intercept surveys. So you can't predict what people are going to do. We're asking our customers, why aren't you traveling? So is it because you don't feel safe? Is it because you're worried about catching COVID on the bus? For the most part right now, 46% of our customers are saying, we don't have anywhere to go. So again, being more patient and calm with ourselves in the short term, to not try to react to say, oh my God, transit's disappeared. It's the people don't have anywhere to go. But I think there's an opportunity here. I think there's an opportunity to accelerate what some of our long-term visions are when it comes to data and technology. So for anyone that knows me, and hello everyone, nice to see you all, I would love to have a day where we take all the riders' guides and throw them away forever. Reason being is I don't think that we should be held to a 4-month schedule. When we right now are trying to deal with a recovery of ridership and we don't know where people are going to be going and we don't know where they're going to be traveling, let's throw those riders' guides out. Let's give people information on here's where you go to find out where your bus is. Get rid of the riders' guides, shift away a little bit from more of the fixed route systems. I'm not talking about urban mass transit. I'm talking about some of the regional connections, the smaller cities. We operate 75 transit systems that have less than 25 buses. So let's get rid of fixed routes. Let's get rid of riders' guides. Let's create nimble scheduling. Let's switch to on-demand. Let's see how we can actually pick people up where they want to go and get them to where they want to go. And this is the customers, I think, will give us permission to try things to meet their needs. The other thing that I think that we're doing with data is challenging our current fare structures. So for those that haven't seen in the news, British Columbia, the entire province, including TransLink, will be making all transit under 13 free starting in September as a way to encourage the future rider and growth of ridership. Right now, in most traditional transit agencies, the cheapest way to ride is to buy that monthly pass. The monthly pass is typically targeted towards the commuter. So if the commuter has gone away, and let's also talk about monthly passes when it comes in terms of equity and equality for those that can afford fare prices. So what are we doing to change our fare pricing and look at incentives for how to get people back to transit? And then the one other thing that we're using with data is we're adjusting our marketing right now to encourage transit in terms of communication. So we're noticing that parking lots are full for people trying to go hike. So we're going to do some specialized service called Transit to Trails, get people to the hiking trails. It's not going to grow ridership back at the levels we would like, but just remind people that we're here for them. That is our job, is to take people where they want to go. So lots of different ways I think we can use data and use the information we have to align to those customer needs. And I'm excited to see where transit transforms and grows as we move forward in the coming years.
Great, thanks, Erin. I mean, it's great to hear. We're very data driven here at Trapeze as well. So hearing your perspective is great to hear. And frankly, it's same attitude, same outlook as Phil and Alex. This is an opportunity, right, for you to revamp. I mean, one question that comes to mind among all of that is, are you concerned about ridership not returning? Is that top of mind? Right. Is that a real thing?
I mean, I get asked this question 5 times a day. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, and Phil kind of mentioned it too, I'm not concerned. Sure, the demand profile might change. Maybe we're going to lose that 20% of the peak commuter demand that are all going to be sitting at home in basements for the rest of their lives working, which I actually don't think is a thing. But honestly, for those of us that run transit systems, if we were to lose 20% of the peak demand, the most expensive service to put on the road, and we could actually flatten out our travel profile and provide an efficient service all day, every day, I don't know if that's the worst case to be in. I think for me, and you mentioned Lauren talking about how we can't put you can't put product on the road that people don't want. We have to be there for the people. Like mobility is freedom. And our transit plays an important role in helping our communities and the economy recover. I think that when the world reopens, people still need to get around. Humans in general and society in general are social creatures. I know there are people right now riding our systems that are riding it because it actually creates the one chance in a day they have to have a social connection. We talk in our province about building back better. So right now, there are less people driving and fewer cars on the road, which is causing less accidents, less emissions, less congestion. So my worst fear is that we reopen and just put more cars back on the road. Even if they are electric, it doesn't matter to me. You're still just putting more cars back on the road. So I think if we go back to the grassroots of what public transit is, we're here to take people where they want to go. We support their needs. We support social connections. We provide green environmental solutions to help reduce overall greenhouse gases and help the world. And we provide that safe community for our children and our future generations. We will survive. The public transit will adapt and innovate. We will stay relevant. And I know that we will be there for the future riders to come. We just have to be in our province. Our provincial health officer, her quote is, "Be safe, be calm, and be kind." And I think that's what we have to do for ourselves as we look forward. So my one recommendation too is that our ridership charts used to always show how much ridership we had lost. We flip those now. It's as simple as this. We flip them to show how much ridership we've recovered. Just flip the lens on it. Be excited that as of right now, we've recovered 50% of our ridership within the province. Be excited by that. I don't look at it as a glass half empty. The glass is half full when it comes to public transit.
I love the passion. Might steal a couple of your mobility as freedom. I love that, and building back better. Both really great.
Absolutely borrow those.
Thank you. Well, great. Thank you very much for your insights. I think given the time we have lots of questions coming in. So if we can have our moderator bring back the rest of these speakers, and we'd love to open it up for questions. So I think we have a couple. I'm just looking here. I think the first is for everyone. So the question is, how will our approach to innovation change post-COVID? Will we be more open to risk and trying new things? Whoever wants to take that one first.
I'll go with that one. I think for definite, the different parts of the transit industry and different parts of our transit activities will have different risk profiles. And for definite, we'll have to take risk back, and we have to innovate and find new ways of delivering things. And that's true in the construction space. But I also think we have to look at health risks with a totally different view and a totally different approach. A very practical thing we've done is we used to have people that are behind glass screens selling tickets. No more. Our people are all on the concourses. They're all, instead of waiting for someone to come and buy a ticket, they are now selling tickets on the concourse and providing support and cleaning and traveling on trains and buses and helping. So we clean our buses during the day. So definitely there's a different risk profile, and our customers have a different risk perception. So and we must adjust to that.
Great. Thanks, Phil. Great. I think we'll move on to the next one here then. Question is, did any other agency experience equipment damage as a result of cleaning?
We didn't.
In our case, we didn't experience any real equipment damage related to cleaning, but what we did find is we had a very hasty design and installation of barriers to protect operators, and we found that we had some unintended injuries where sharp edges, etc., may have caused an issue. And so we're obviously rethinking that and moving to a more hardy system.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Next question here is, can you share examples of equal and inclusive design of services and agency tools? I'm thinking that's Alex, if you don't mind taking that one.
Yeah, we have a really good example of that. We just completed a system redesign titled New Links, and we were very specific in how we wanted our bus and streetcar system to work. And earlier I mentioned we had a focused effort on looking at those neighborhoods that historically may have had service with headways of 30 minutes to an hour, and making sure that we could provide service that better connected them to educational and employment opportunities, and improving the headways and getting those headways down to, in some cases, 10 to 15 minutes. And so we found that by taking that approach, we now, whereas before about 30% of our ridership had transit access and headway options within 15 minutes, we bumped that up now to almost 70% of our service area. And again, very focused on those communities that, were essentially transit deserts. And we still have work to do, but that bus redesign is helping us focus on delivering the type of service that folks actually need. I mean, I love what Aaron said earlier. Our most basic fundamental job in transit is to take people to where they want to go and when they want to go. Right. And so we're focusing on that here. And so instead of, relying on a law enforcement officer to handle that situation, we're hiring social workers to actually engage and look at those underlying causes and look at long-term solutions. Now, there are times when you have to use your law enforcement resources to address immediate concerns, but really approaching it from a perspective of dignity and getting at the underlying issues. And this was mentioned earlier by Aaron as well, is that when it comes to youth and senior mobility, we are actually exploring and will implement very quickly lowering our monthly fares to actually improve their mobility options, greatly improve their mobility options. And one of our challenges in New Orleans is we also operate a ferry system, and historically we have treated it as a mode into itself, unto itself, not connected to anything. We have now integrated that as a mode like bus, our other fixed route modes, and our passes will work across all modes. And so we can really improve mobility for folks there. But to come back to homelessness, I think it's a complex problem that requires complex solutions. And I think the long-term solution is to understand what the underlying issues are. Sometimes it's mental health, sometimes it's substance abuse, sometimes it's a combination of both, and to work with professionals who are trained to deal with that.
Great, thanks so much, Alex. Really, really interesting what you're doing to tackle that problem. Aaron, we have one more question for you. 46% of riders had nowhere to go. Can you speak to the other 54%? Was there any concern around COVID-19? And did you do anything specific to get them to trust your transit agency?
Yeah, absolutely. The top three things that we heard from our riders, for those that had somewhere to go and were concerned about riding, it's the safety of the cleanliness measures that you've put on board. It's the crowding and capacity of the bus. Yeah. And it was masks. So the three things that we did to address that is we've, like everyone else, ramped up the cleaning. Number two, we've reduced our capacity on board. I think right now we're at about a seated load. That's really hard to tell a driver how to do that every day. So I'm open to anyone's suggestions about that. And number three is we mandated masks in British Columbia. So masks are required on board. And then on top of that, really trying to push our marketing campaigns to encourage our I can't remember, Phil, what did you say yours was? The ride again?
Ready to ride.
Ready to ride.
Okay, so ours is Together We Ride. And it's a campaign as well to encourage the fact that we are all in this bus together. You all have to do your part. We can do our part, but you have to do your part. So it's hard to get that messaging out when a lot of the messaging can come from social media, and at the same time we can play a role. So we've done some cutesy things like a transit dance, teaching people how to get on the bus and get off it. But we've also done some things like really pushed to show people that you have to do your part when you're on the bus. So safety right now around COVID concerns, I think, is also, as agencies that likely have to bring employees back to work, there's a lot of discomfort around perception, hesitancy, safety? What are you doing within your own agencies? That's just going to take some time. That's going to take some time for sure.
And Jeff, what I can say to exactly the same experience as Alex and Aaron has had, the bit to add will be the huge impact our employees have made on the ground in how they interact. With so many of the homeless shelters in the city of Toronto being full, we have our large stations have become a natural place where homeless people have slept overnight, and
Right.
how our people deal with that, and how they hand out daycare packages, they hand out masks, everything about how we as an organization interact with our communities are going to be more important to build confidence with communities into the future. I think transit organizations will become more personable, more human, and more empathetic to our communities coming out of this pandemic.
I love that. Yeah, you've all been saying the exact same thing. It's opportunity, and it's opportunity to make it a better customer experience, closer to your customers, and a positive experience. So thank you all for your insights, for everything that you shared today, for answering questions. I think we're just about at time here. We have Steve's going to share some final notes here before we kick off the rest of the day. But honestly, thank you to our speakers and for those that engaged in this.
Thank you for listening to this special Transit Unplugged episode, the keynote speech from ThinkTransit. Hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to Transit Unplugged in the podcatcher of your choice.